Ariel Helwani in Las Vegas alongside Brandon Thatch, who meets Gunnar Nelson this Saturday, live on pay-per-view at UFC 189. Brandon, it's good to see you.
You as well.
Of course, the last time we saw you was that fight against Benson Henderson.
Yeah.
What an interesting fight. It was a spectacle. It was almost a throwback fight in a sense. The bigger guy against the smaller guy, and of course the smaller guy won. How difficult was it to process that? Because I think a lot of people thought you were going to smoke Benson Henderson.
I mean, you can't take anything from Benson. He's a stud. He was a former champion. He dragged me into the later rounds like he's used to. I think all his last 4 fights or something like that have been in five fight wars. So he was prepared to go the distance. And there's not much you can do in a couple weeks to get your cardio ready for that. And he did very well on capitalizing on that. And he came out with a W.
Did you take him lightly? In hindsight, do you feel that was the case?
No, I absolutely didn't take him lightly, and I think that's ultimately why he ended up getting the W and I got the loss, was because I was a little bit too respectful of him. I feel like I would have him backed up and in some bad positions, and then I would give him too much respect on him getting close to me, and I would back up and let him out. Versus just kind of going in and throwing everything I had at him. So I think if anything, I gave him a little too much respect.
Did it take you a while to get over the loss?
It still stings. A loss sucks. You're never going to be like, oh, well, it's a loss and be okay with it. It's something that'll always stick with me, and it is what it is.
It kind of felt, though, that it was one of those fights where both guys, your stock rose. Like, people gave you a lot of respect for taking the fight on short notice. You fought a great fight. They kind of felt like your profile expanded because you were in the main event and all that, and of course him for doing what he did. Did you feel that? I felt like you were getting a lot of love for the fight despite the loss.
It was a great fight. There's nothing you can take away from either of us. It was a great fight. I think it was exciting. That's one of the biggest things for me. As long as I'm throwing exciting fights, I leave everything out there. I'm not, I don't feel like I could do anything more. I didn't give up. I gave everything I possibly could, and it was exciting for the fans to watch. Then that's okay for me.
So you take this fight on relatively short notice as well. You replace John Hathaway. Why did you feel like this was a fight worth taking? He's a tough guy coming off a loss as well, so somewhat of a wounded animal, if you will. Why were you interested in this fight?
This fight does a lot for the career. He's a top 15 guy. Put me in the next position. As an MMA fighter, you want to fight in the UFC. I've reached that dream. Now the next dream is getting that top 10. And once I get to the top 10, it's reaching that strap. I want to get that gold. So I need to continue to climb my ladder, and this is my next step.
Have you checked him out? It feels like you kind of have a size advantage over him again.
Yeah, size, it is what it is. I feel like I'm constantly going to be one of the taller fighters. There's some bigger 170 fighters, but I feel like I'm always going to have kind of a height advantage. But, that doesn't always play out. I just need to make sure I'm fighting my fight, keep him at the end of my distance, and be mindful of where he's dangerous.
He has a funky style, especially as far as his stand-up is concerned. Did you bring in anyone in the last few weeks to emulate him?
I train with a lot of karate guys in Colorado. Zach Wells is one of the guys that I train with out of Colorado, and he's a monster. His karate is amazing, and I train with him all the time. But yeah, I train with everybody at Team Elevation. My coach, Lee Bowling, my wrestling coach. Christian Allen is my striking coach, and he's a ninja. It makes violence look fucking sexy. He's a monster. And Elliot Marshall is my jiu-jitsu coach. So I train with some of the best in the world, and I'm prepared.
Is he as well-rounded as you are?
I don't think so. I mean, he's anyone in the UFC deserves to be there, and they're dangerous. But I think I'm the better fighter.
Do you have something to prove on Saturday? Of course, you always want to win, but you feel like people have forgotten about you a little bit.
I don't think anyone's forgotten about me, but I'm definitely going to prove something on Saturday.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.